All right. Why do you think some people claimed that Gamergate was about harassment or hating women?
Well, it was very convenient as a way to dismiss our arguments. Now, look, we're talking about a movement online, largely on Twitter, and Twitter has no ban function except that which is used by the Twitter admins. You cannot mechanically ban a user from a hashtag. It's not like a subreddit, you can't do that. So there was no way to gatekeep who could use the Gamergate hashtag. And you're talking about a movement that at its peak probably amounted to 100,000 dedicated activists or more. Of course, on that kind of scale, there are going to be some people who do bad shit. There are going to be some people who take it too far. There are going to be some people who send others horrible messages. That's going to happen. It's inevitable in any angry political movement at that scale. It happened on both sides. It's happened in almost every similar controversy since Gamergate. On both sides. Hell, this kind of stuff happens in internet debates about shipping drama in television shows. You know, one melodramatic cheerleader on a CW high school drama bangs another melodramatic cheerleader's boyfriend, and a bunch of teenage girls send the writers death threats. That's happened a million times. And it's never treated the same way that it was with Gamergate. It was never treated as tainting and delegitimizing an entire movement of so many people and whole political and philosophical objectives because some tiny minority of people said some shitty words online. That was just a tactic used to try to dismiss Gamergate.
How important to you was it that bad actors were condemned?
That's pretty important. I think that the reasonable standard of behavior for online movements should be that they are willing to denounce and to distance themselves from known bad actors. But that if they do this, and they do so in apparent good faith, that is accepted as good enough. And I will admit, sometimes we failed, but we sure as shit tried a lot harder than our opponents did.
Well, I want to ask, do you think Gamergate largely did a good job at condemning bad actors?
Mostly. Definitely, if you look at things by the standards of these loose internet political movements, we were certainly well above average in terms of trying to self-police that kind of behavior. There were things like Gamergate harassment patrols. We found a friggin' troll in Brazil or something who was sending Anita death threats, and we sent his info to the cops. And that is not a common thing in these kinds of internet movements. That degree of self-policing is rare, and we achieved that, and it's something to be proud of.
I actually agree. I think that fuck, I can't express my. Well, actually, you know what? Fuck it. This is. I always say I'm informal. I actually think that we did like way above like what the standard
We
probably
were
should be.
well above average.
Like if you
We
look
were
at
not.
online discussions online
Yeah.
now, like holy shit.
Holy shit!
People are
We
toxic as fuck, but like we actually really did try. We
we
tried so
did. We
hard.
did. We were not. We were not perfect, and
No, we weren't
the
perfect.
expectation that we should be perfect was never reasonable and never put on us in good faith, because the people who were putting that on us were so much worse themselves. But by any metric, we were well above the average in terms of behavior for movements, online political movements that are structurally similar to us.
But you said that you think that the anti-GamerGate side didn't do as good of a job.
No, they didn't. I honestly can't recall any of their major talking heads actually acknowledging and making any effort to deal with harassment from their supporters. Like, Anita, Zoe, Brianna, they were always going on about harassment that they got, but many of their supporters were so fucking toxic, and they were never willing to talk about that. I mean, and sometimes they were toxic as fuck. Anita blasted Sargon in real life. He was just friggin' sitting there, and she just, points to him while she's doing a panel, points to him in the audience and goes, "You're a garbage human." And she's got the nerve to go to the UN and say that it's harassment when people say to her, "You're a liar and you suck." Come on, lady, practice what you preach.
Well, did GamerGazi not condemn the Zek Attack doxers though?
They did. GamerGazi was actually one of the better ones. They were a censorious as hell circle jerk, but they at least did make an effort to be consistent.
And I believe,
to be fair, they also didn't want to get booted off Reddit for hosting blatant doc.
well, and I think Zoe Quinn did fire Izzy Galvez for participating in the doxing group.
Yeah, she did. For the most part, both sides accepted doxing as a line that you don't cross.
I agree. I think most people on both sides were absolutely opposed.
But in terms of just, spewing toxic internet verbiage at people, we were so much better at keeping some level of discipline in the ranks than they were. You could say, if you were anti-GamerGate, you could say fucking anything to GamerGaters or about GamerGaters, no matter how vile, and they would be cool with it. I mean, do you remember some of the stuff that Movie Bob came up with?
Only vaguely.
Where, he was just going on these rants that sounded like eugenics about how we were inferiors and we had no place on the planet, and it was practically Hitlerish. And they were cool with it. He never got treated by them like the toxic motherfucker or the absolute lol cow that he was.
Also,
But
okay, sorry.
But we were expected to be so much better. And most of our guys, be it Total Biscuit or Sargon or any of them, at least made the effort to tell their audiences, "Hey, guys, don't go harass these people." We have don't touch the poop rules on Kotaku in Action that are much stricter than what GamerGazi had.
Meta, but I should and anytime I mention an allegation like the Izzy thing, I should probably say allegedly, even though we do have the logs, but like just for Legal purposes.
For legal purposes, yes.
Yeah. All right.
But no, I don't think that they were good about dealing with harassment. But I will say that they were better than what is the norm today. I mean, if you look at like the Black Lives Matter people or the MAGA people or anything like that, they will dox people, they will go after people in real life. Holy shit, they are so much worse than either we were or the anti-GamerGaters were.
If you saw someone on quote unquote your side doing something you thought was bad, how would you handle that situation?
Well, I would try to explain to that person, and I have been in this situation, and I have done this and sometimes been successful. I would explain to this person from a coldly tactical perspective why what they are doing is a bad idea, why it's bad optics, it makes us look hypocritical, it erodes our moral high ground, it could get our platforms in trouble, it gives the enemy ammunition, etc., etc. Not because that I think that only the cold tactical logic is what matters. The morality matters too, obviously. But the person who's doing that stuff, they're probably really angry right now, and they're probably not going to listen to an appeal to morality. But they might listen to somebody explaining to them why doing what they're doing is not in their practical self-interest.
Where do you draw the line between normal behavior, then behavior that I should talk to this person about and address, versus behavior where it's like, look, you've crossed the line, you're gone?
Well, for one thing, obviously, platform rules are an important element of
No, I
that.
mean personally, in regards to how you treat people within the movement. Sorry.
If you attempt to physically harm or terrorize anyone in real life, you're a monster, and I don't want to be around you. You know, if you're doxing somebody, if you're prank calling the cops to send a SWAT team after them, if you're sending threats, if you're stalking somebody in real life, if you're making alt accounts to go after somebody who is trying to get away from you, you're creepy and possibly breaking the law, and you shouldn't be allowed around. Whereas if somebody is just being toxic, you know, being insulting, name calling, saying slurs, things like that, maybe I can talk this person down. Maybe they'll listen to reason. Maybe they're just having a bad day. But somebody should try to reason with them and calm them down, not just cancel them.
So if you saw
That should be reserved for people who do really serious stuff.
so if you saw someone using a racial slur, you would try to convince them that what they did was bad, but you wouldn't condemn them entirely.
Yeah. And I mean, also when it comes to things like racial slurs, the use mention distinction is important. You know, if somebody is singing along to rap lyrics, that's not the same as just yelling it at some black person.
Yeah, no, I agree. Context definitely matters. I'm 1,000% with you. But the racial slurs thing, like if somebody did say, you know what, let's say it was some famous person, let's say Total Biscuit, hypothetically, tweeted out, I hate, the N-word people or whatever. Like, or let's say you didn't even have to use a racial slur. Let's say they said, I hate black people. Do you?
Well,
How would
that's
you
not
approach
about
that?
the word. That's not about the word itself. That's about them saying that they hate an entire racial group. And, I mean, you can't reason somebody out of a position they didn't reason themselves into. I guess Daryl Davis can, that guy who talks down Klansmen. But, you know, if somebody is really in a place where they're just overtly hateful towards an entire identity group for a facet of their identity that's not within their control, that's just damaging to political discourse, to our social fabric, to race relations. And, you know, maybe that person is just being an edgelord or something. Maybe they don't mean it. But if they really fucking mean it, I don't particularly want to be around them.
Now, I know you said normally I would preface this next question by saying you don't have to talk about it or answer, but I know you've said publicly that you do want to talk about this, but you received harassment during Gamergate.
I did.
Do you want to tell us about that?
I would. I try to be legalistic about legal terms like harassment. And I'm not sure that it rises to that level because it didn't cross over into real life. So I just want to have that as a caveat. But I had about a half dozen people who decided that I was a lolcat and that they were just going to run a small subreddit called GGFreeForAll like it was their private Kiwi farms to chronicle all of the allegedly stupid stuff that I said and circle jerk about how bad I am and how much they hate me. And sometimes they followed me around to other subreddits to try to re-engage with me, or they bypassed bans by making new accounts to try to continue the argument and to try to egg me on into saying something that they could then circle jerk about how terrible it is. And once or twice, a few of them expressed the position that I should not be alive, including one of them who talked about the idea that I should get the wall, as in a Soviet-style firing squad. That person got their account suspended from Reddit, obviously.
So these were trolls, or were they anti-GamerGate people?
They were anti-GamerGate people. A lot of them were, I think all of them, were people who I had argued with on GG Discussion, and either they had gotten fed up with arguing with me, or they had gotten banned and been mad about it. And I should preference by saying I didn't ban them. We had moderator code of conduct rules on GamerGate Discussion that you were not allowed to warn or ban the person you were arguing with, and bans required a majority vote of the mod team, which was always kept split, half pro-GamerGate and half anti-GamerGate. So unless some anti-GamerGaters agreed that this person had broken the rules, they couldn't be banned. So I was not just going around banning these people. I want to clarify that right out the gate. But still, some of them ended up getting banned, so they went to GamerGate Free for All, and they circle jerked about how terrible I was and how I must have been responsible for their bans.
Yeah, I kind of reflect on this period myself, and I don't know what to think of it because I was on GamerGate Free for All as a pro GamerGate person, and obviously I got a lot of crap, some of which some people might consider to be harassment that I received. Even I had people making, I'm not sure if you remember, people made accounts pretending to be me and stuff.
I had too.
But I mean, I mean, to be
You
clear,
had,
like they were
you
obvious troll
had,
accounts, right? It was,
they were mean.
they
You
were
had
very mean.
Nut Scrape, and I had Aurondarklord, which I have to admit, in hindsight, was a pretty good pun. I have to admit. But still, who does that? Who's that obsessed?
Yeah, I think I had a cuckscape person too at one point.
I mostly remember
I don't
Nuts.
remember. No, they were, and then like you said, they really would go and follow you around, but in like to other places, like, I mean, I don't know. Again, I can't speak to your experience. They would make posts saying like, "Look at this stupid thing that this person said," and
Yeah, I had one who followed me to the Game of Thrones subreddit, and I had happened to make it was during the Game of Thrones ending controversy, and I made a post with, it was just a sort of, meme post where it was this picture of Daenerys with her fleet and me complaining about how she got robbed. And she did get robbed. That was a terrible ending. But
it was a terrible ending. I agree.
And I just got lucky. Everybody was mad. Everybody was making posts about how mad they were about the ending. And I happened to be the one who got lucky. And my post blew the fuck up to the front page. And I ended up with 10,000 upvotes on it. It's the best karma I've ever gotten from a single post in my entire history on Reddit. I ended up with 10,000. I think I was number one on the front page of r/all for a while. And I don't know if one of these people didn't like that I was having a little moment or something, because this guy followed me to the Game of Thrones subreddit, and he started accusing me of being Emilia Clarke's psycho stalker and being in love with her and being obsessed with her. And, I'm a fan of the character, and obviously I think she's an extremely attractive woman, but who doesn't? And just going nuts in this totally unrelated thread, and anybody who I was talking to in the thread about the show, this person was showing up and being like, "Don't you know that this Auron guy is a GamerGater, and he's a sexist, and he's a racist, and he's all these things?" And just trying to turn everybody in the thread against me and being generally crazy. And of course, finally, I hit the report button, and the guy got banned. Because of course he got banned. That was fucking psycho. And that and the time that they talked about wanting to put me before firing squad was the weirdest it got. Oh, and one time that they started trying to follow me onto Twitter, but I blocked all their accounts that I know of.
Now, obviously, I'm not going to defend harassment, but to play devil's advocate for the GamerGate Free for All anti-GG people, I would their perception probably would be, their argument in their defense would be that if you post on this specific subreddit, the Free for All subreddit, even once, which I'm not sure if you did or not, but like then you're opening yourself up, your fair game, because you know what this subreddit is. This is the cesspit of GamerGate. Like this is where the both sides go to duke it out and do a complete, bloodbath brawl.
I think if you wanna scream at me in a thread on GGFreeForAll while I'm posting on GGFreeForAll screaming back, and I admit I took the bait. I posted there a couple times. I regret it. It was stupid. It was never going to get anything done, and I don't know why I saw an open sewer and I decided to wade into it. That was obviously a bad idea. But I did. And if I went on the name-calling subreddit and somebody called me names, what the hell did I expect? That's not harassment. That's what the community's about. But I don't think that it's reasonable to say that if you've posted there once, you are forever fair game for them to do whatever the hell they want on or off that subreddit. I think that going around stalking you to other subreddits, that acting like your private Kiwi farms and trying to keep an archive of every stupid thing you've ever said, I think that making a bunch of alt accounts and evading bans to try to engage with you elsewhere and creating accounts to impersonate you and things, that's not normal. And that's not a reasonable reaction to the fact that once or twice this person posted on an internet blood sports subreddit to call you names and be called names back.
Obviously, harassment against people like Anita Sarkeesian got a lot of media attention. But why do you think when pro-GamerGate people got harassed, it was not really covered very much?
Because that was inconvenient to the media. For the same reason they didn't want to cover things like airplay. They didn't want to cover what was inconvenient to their narrative. I mean, look at all the people who told Total Biscuit to unalive himself or threatened to do it to him or celebrated when he got cancer. I mean, that wasn't even just kill yourself in the abstract. That was literally he had actual cancer and was actually for real dying of it, and they were celebrating.
What do you think of the term sealioning?
I think it's ridiculous. I think the entire concept is ridiculous. I think if you read the original webcomic that it came from, the sea lion is in the right.
I agree. Actually, I mean, aside from the
part
house
where it follows her home,
yeah,
obviously
aside from that part,
it should not stalk somebody.
But literally, if you post something on a public space,
yeah, and
people criticize you for it, like holy cow.
And especially if this woman is talking about how she hates sea lions. So she has just said that she hates this whole species for their species. That's like giga racism. So she's just made this ultra racist declaration that she hates all sea lions. And this sea lion shows up and he's like, "What did you mean by that?" I mean, could you imagine the same thing about instead of a parody identity like sea lion being about a real race? Could you imagine that comic where some white woman says, "Oh, I could do without black people," and some black person is like, "Can we unpack that for a second?" And the comic depicts him as the bad guy?
Yeah.
That would be absurd.
I want to ask everybody this question. I want to see what everybody thinks. Because, like, I swear, when I interview anti-GamerGate people, I wonder if any of them will actually defend the concept. I want to see what they say.
If you say something, if you put an opinion out there in public, I think the best comic we ever had about that was the one where Anita Sarkeesian is shoveling into a mound of poop, and she flings the poop over the wall, and then other shovels fling poop back at her, and she goes, "Help, harassment!" Yeah. Have you seen that one?
Well, I mean, people have Anita Sarkeesian did receive real harassment too, though.
She did, but she also received a lot of just negative feedback, where she would say something mean, and people would say something mean back to her, and she would go, "That's harassment." I think harassment has to be a pattern of behavior. I think, what those half a dozen people did on GGFreeForAll, where they went at it for years and years, just following me around, making alt accounts and stuff. I think a reasonable argument can be made that is close to the line or over the line of being actual harassment. But most people with Anita, they might just leave one or two nasty messages and then move on. There were a few who would go at her and at her and at her and at her.
Were these GamerGate people or were they other people?
I'm sure that some of them were affiliated with GamerGate. Just statistically, it's almost impossible that there weren't some. But it's pretty goddamn telling that if you actually ask anti-GamerGaters to provide an example of a death threat or something like that from a person who is verifiably a member of GamerGate, they can't even produce one example. And I'm sure once or twice it happened, but it was not prevalent if there isn't even one clear example that they can point to. The only one that they had turned out when we got the FBI report to have been an obvious troll job full of over 9,000 and Navy SEAL meme.
Well, there was a death threat from, I'm not even sure I should say their name because they're not pro GamerGate. They were very much a third-party troll. But do you remember a Muppet avatar person?
I don't remember a Muppet avatar person. I remember one guy who got arrested.
They were a third-party troll, and they did send Brianna Wu a death threat. Well, they sent pictures of guns at her, which no.
You
know who I'm talking about.
I know who you mean.
You know what I'm talking.
I know who you mean. What was that guy's name?
No, don't say his name, because if you say his name, then you're basically giving attention to the harassment that he did, which is not good.
Okay, I won't say his name. I don't remember it, but I was going to Google it.
But we all condemned.
I remember his name.
That 1,000%.
I remember his name now. I will not say it.
Yeah. I can DM you off air. If you.
I remember his name. I remember who you mean. I know who you.
He wasn't
the guy who claimed that he was the guy who claimed that he crashed his car driving to Brianna.
No, I'm talking about somebody else actually, but.
No, I remember this, but
this was a different person I was referring to. That guy was a guy who crashed his car too. That was a second person, yeah. He wasn't even GamerGate either. He was just a random dude.
Brianna sure had the weird ones. Brianna got the strangest ones. But, yeah, some of those people were not affiliated, but that Crash Your Car guy, he was playing a character. That was a joke.
Obviously, it's not acceptable. It's not an acceptable.
It was a joke in terrible taste, and he absolutely should not have done it.
Yeah, he was like a comedy YouTuber guy, and he did it.
But he was a comedian. He was a comedian playing a character in the vein of Jim Sterling pretending to be a dictator.
But he was not associated with GG at all.
No, he wasn't. But he was basically playing like one of the fake GamerGate terrorists from that Law and Order episode.
Anyway, dude, I gotta go to bed in like 45 minutes. Well, I can stay a little bit later if I need to, but I'm not sure how long my headset's gonna last. I got a wireless.
We can get on the road. But I just want to say that I think harassment has to be a pattern of behavior, and most of the time it was just one person says a mean thing, the other person says a mean thing back, and then the first person cries harassment, and that's not harassment, that's an argument. It's a childish argument, but it's an argument.
Are there?
And I also think that in the original Sea Lion comic, the sea lion was right until he started following the woman back to her house.
Yeah, I would agree with the sea lion
You
thing.
should not continue a debate with a person who clearly does not want to have it. If someone is arguing in public and you argue back, that's fine. But if they block you, don't make alt accounts to try to re-engage with them. That's where the line is. If someone blocks you, you're free to say, ha ha, you're a coward, you blocked, so you lost the debate. But don't make alt accounts and keep going after them.
Yeah,
that's bad behavior.